$1,963.99. Utility fund, $208,197.38, for a total docket of $387,977.56.
We have a motion by Alderman Geist. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Geist.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Number 4, special gifts and presentations. I have nothing. Number 5, planning. I have nothing. Number 6, new business, a resolution for cleaning private property. There's a public hearing. I now declare it open. Sir.
This is not a public hearing on this one, where we're approving
Oh, okay.
everything that we've done over this year. Tax collector's office, we put on the tax bill.
Thank you, sir. That's even better than a public hearing. There is no public hearing. All right, number 7, citizens' remarks. Were there any?
We have to make.
Pardon? Oh, that's okay. Do we have a motion for number 6, please?
Mayor,
Alderman Bostic, go ahead. A resolution
I'd like
for
to make a
cleaning
motion
private
to approve
property.
the resolution for cleaning
It's a
private
public
property.
hearing. I now
to be
declare it
submitted to
open.
the Soda County Tax Assessor's Office.
We have a motion by Alderman Bostic. Who seconded? Alderman Dupree. Second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geist.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Now, number 7, citizens' remarks. Do we have any? All right, sir. Please remember, this is a time limit of 3 minutes, please. Mr. Michael, I can't read your last name. Schubert? Sir? Schucher, all right. Thank you, sir.
I'm not really sure of the correct proceedings for this. I'm just,
Well, neither was I a while ago, so join the club.
I'm just trying to get more clarification and or permission on where it is inside of the city that I can park my my rollback tow truck. A
All
little
right.
clarification, I guess, is needed. I've used to park it in my driveway at my residence, and it has been brought to my attention that that is against the city's code. So I came up here and spoke with Chad and really dove into the books. And because it was a commercial vehicle that is over 2 tons, it was not allowed to be parked in residential area. And after a couple of hours of speaking with Chad, he told me that the best solution that he could come up with, aside from speaking at the meeting here today, was to ask a nearby business if I could park my truck in their parking lot. So I live right across the street from Donnie's Deli, right up here at Tulane and Nail. And I asked who I thought would have been an authority that could give permission. His name is Romeo Hanshali. Apparently he is the son of the owner. The owner's name is Adele. That's on the deed. And he is out of the country currently. So I can't get permission from him, but the owner's son has said that it's fine to park there. And this morning I was told that I'm not allowed to park there even though it's commercially zoned. So I have no idea where it is that I'm allowed and how I'm supposed to comply with the city of Horn Lake.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Chad, did you want to add something to that for the benefit of the board and myself there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Evening, Alderman. Thank you, Mr. Schuster, for coming in tonight on your issue. Yeah, basically, I directed him to try to find a spot in town that it would be both a permission from a current landowner, but it also has the current zoning as well. I'm trying to bring up the zoning here on my phone or whatever to see if I can answer that question yet. I don't even know if it's the C4 zone. It may just be the M1 zone, which is mainly in the center part of town. So in order to kind of connect the dots, if you will, between a property owner that would be willing to allow him to do that, whether that's for a fee or not, that's between, you know, the landowner and the gentleman here. And then also that make sure it has the correct zoning that allows that use as well. So basically it'd be a matter of meeting both of those requirements or points to be able to accomplish that task.
Does anybody on the board have any questions? Thank you, ma'am. Does anybody on the board have any questions? Alderman Klein?
So are you an independent owner?
No, sir.
So where's the business that you're working out of?
We're based in Memphis off of Lamar and Knight Arnold, and really the issue that I have with parking too far away from my residence is I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When the phone jumps, so do I. I have a contract with the city of Memphis to be on scene for a wreck, a seizure, whatever, you know, an abandoned vehicle for 30 minutes or less. If I park my truck too far away from my residence, I'm not able to get anywhere in Memphis in 30 minutes or less. So I used to park it in the driveway just because, I mean, I've got the room, I've got a camera, it's secure. I had no problem with parking it across the street with at Donnie's because I've lived in Horn Lake my entire life. I've been going to Donnie's since I was old enough to cross Tulane. I have a great relationship with every employee there. I know them all on a first name basis. Romeo has no problem with me parking there as long as the city doesn't have a problem with it. And when it's back and forth as to whether I'm breaking ordinance or not, Romeo's kind of in a position where he's not wanting me to if the city doesn't want me to, because he doesn't want to get fined, and neither do I. I just don't know how I need to go about it, where it is that I need to park that's going to allow me to keep my contract, my obligation with Memphis as an emergency wrecker to be on scene in 30 minutes. So, I mean, I understand that there's a plethora of places that I could park the truck at, but if it's gonna eat into my 30 minutes or less, I'm gonna lose the contract with the city of Memphis. And that would mean that I would lose my job.
Just a thought, board, based on Mr. Chad's remarks. Would y'all rather Mr. Chad research this some more, then get back in touch with Mr. Schuster and tell him where it's legal to park it and where it's not legal to park it?
Excuse me, Mayor.
Alderman Klein?
Have you received a summons or 5 days? You got 5 days to?
The only thing that was written by code enforcement was while I was still parking in my driveway, and they told me that I had 24 hours to move the vehicle. And then that was the day that I came up here and spoke with Chad and had to figure out where it is that, you know, what code it is that I am breaking, being over 2 tons and parked in a residential area, which I thought that we resolved by moving it across the street, which is a commercial zone, but it's still up in the air as to whether I am, I guess, allowed to park there or not.
I have a question, Mr. Barr. So
Yes, sir.
we saying in the commercial zone it's not allowed also?
I'm not prepared to answer that at this time.
Okay.
I believe Mr. Barr said he needed time to research that and to make his determination. Is that all right with the board? Alderman Young, because we're going over this 3 minutes a good bit.
Mr. Barr, would we be able to offer a week grace period to the gentleman while we research this? We're in an unknown gray area. I mean, and then you can get back to him within 5 days and make a determination of what we need to do?
I think that's a fair question. And I guess I'd be up to the board's leading, I guess, on it. Lots of times with code, we could try to go with certain timeframes for certain magnitudes or certain types of violations or code violations, that sort of thing. But depending on the circumstances that are ever presented, and obviously people have lives or whatever, I'm willing to enter in the empathy factor to basically allow him to try to sort it out why he's trying to conduct business and operate life, so I don't have a problem with that, but I guess I'd just leave it up to the board if they're okay with that or not.
Alderman Young.
I'd like to make a motion to offer the gentleman with Mr. Barr's recommendation there that we give him 5 days from today to get with Mr. Barr and work out that situation and to figure out where this gentleman can park his wrecker or where he cannot park the wrecker, with the understanding that Mr. Barr's decision will be final.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Klein. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Mr. Michael, is it 901-605-7873?
That is correct.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Barr. Would y'all be kind enough to pass that down to Mr.
You
Ewing?
have a business card?
I've got several in the truck. I can go grab some.
Make sure you get with Mr. Chad and y'all.
All right, Mayor Alderman correspondence. Ms. Kelly that passed away in the Chamber of Commerce, they're scheduling a memorial service for her, tentatively set for November the 15th at 5 o'clock by the South Haven Library. That is also a board meeting night. I'm sorry to say there are conflicts there. Secondly, I'd like to thank everybody for the success of the Spooktacular last night. It was a tremendous crowd. The crowd was very well behaved. It was a lot of fun. I want to thank the police department for being out there, not only to enforce law, but to also hand out candy and make a good public showing. The fire department was also there with the truck and being very gracious and greeting the citizens. And of course, our park director, Mr. Drew, I want to congratulate you on a well-organized and successful event.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
That is all I have at the present time. Alderman Young, do you have anything, sir?
Just right quick, Mayor. Just want to ask the public and everybody, we're coming into the holidays. Everybody wants to be festive. Enjoy the time, but be safe. That's pretty much all. Just pay attention to what's going on in town. We've got a lot of things happening, Christmas parade. We've got all kinds of things going on. So Chamber of Commerce is fully engaged in all this as we are. So look forward to seeing everybody out and about.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Dupree, you have anything, sir?
Just a question. How many, Mr. Drew, how many children estimated come through there?
The estimation would probably be around 3,000.
That's what I was thinking.
We gave out 2,000 bags, but we ran out early, so we'd say probably 3,000.
Yeah, we had a great time out there, and I appreciate all the kids being so good. And I had a blast, and I can't wait till next year to do it. Maybe Alderman Bossick can join in us. I parked in your spot last night.
Alderman Johnson?
No, sir.
Alderman Bostic?
You want to come back to the ticket?
Yeah, we'll come back to him. Do you have anything, sir? Alderman Geis?
No, sir.
Alderman Bledsoe?
No.
Alderman Klein?
I would also like to reiterate, Drew, on what a fine job y'all did. I was one of the adults that participated, so I was figured in, I guess, that 3,000 kids. I was trick-or-treating for one of my grandchildren that got the stomach virus that couldn't come. But I look at it as a quality control, too. And I'm looking forward to participating next year as the trunk or treat, where I don't have to take an hour to get in. That's how long that line was. And then it took an hour to go through it. So it was about a 2 hour, for our family. It was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor,
Alderman Dupree.
I was, we spoke about this last night, Alderman Johnson, maybe all of us next year getting together and making one big spectacular, maybe a walkthrough, haunted house type deal. I don't, just something to have fun.
Go right ahead.
He's already planning.
You go right ahead.
It'd be fun. It would be fun.
Sounds like a good idea. You could actually be the gatekeeper.
I'm surprised you didn't mention something worse.
Well, we're recording.
Chief Riles, do you have anything for the board, sir?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything tonight.
Does anybody have any, if you have any questions for any of our department heads as we go through here, please let me know. Anybody have any questions for Chief Ryle? Alderman Klein?
Chief, do we have any, candidates down there going through
The Academy.
academy?
Yes, sir. We got 4 that's in the academy right now.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Alderman Dupree?
So, hey, Chief, we got 4 in the academy. Do you have any certified maybe coming on board?
We got a few applications certified that's coming in, that have come in the last couple of weeks, that we're looking at right now. We're processing through, so
That's good.
fingers crossed.
Man, I hope so. That'd be great. Also, I brought this up last meeting. I got some more calls about speeders in the school zones on Horn Lake Road and on Nell Road. Matter of fact, I was coming down Nell Road Friday morning, and somebody passed me like 40, 50 miles an hour in the school zone. I'm like, watch out. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Mr. Box, you have anything for the board?
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Anyone have questions? Chief Limble, you have anything for the board, sir?
No, sir, I don't have anything.
Anybody? Mr. Drew, you have anything for the board?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple things. First, I do want to say thank you to everyone that came out and supported the Latimer for the Halloween event. As I was walking out that night to inspect the line, I heard somebody over say, "Oh my goodness, I think the whole city of Horn Lake is here." And so that's our goal, is to get the whole city to come out and support it and to have fun and enjoy the night. And I think everything was a success, and I just appreciate everyone for coming out and helping us on that. Second, I do want to mention that we are going to have, or it's going to be held by Brent Smith with American Fireworks. He's going to have a free coat giveaway on November 12th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. This came before us back in July, but I just want to remind everybody that is going to be set up on November 12th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Latimer, free coat giveaway. And then also the library is going to have a nature walk on Tuesday, November 22nd. So when everybody's out of school, they're going to have DeSoto County Master Gardener J.R. Owens leading the group, and it's just to basically give some insight on growing trees and nature, things like that. So
Where's
that's
that
all I have.
going to be at? Where's the walk?
It's going to start at the parks office and then go through the trails and then end at the pavilion down there.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Drew? Comments? Mr. Malavasi, you have something?
Just a few things here, Mayor, as far as projects we got going on, I wanted to update.
Yes, sir.
you on. Of course, we've got the EWP project, which is presently under construction. I think most of you know about that one. They are working on 2 of the 5 sites right now, and their completion date is January the 18th, I believe. So they're pretty much on schedule with that project. And also, if you recall, this project, when we bid it, it was slightly overbid. I think something to the tune of about $30,000. We requested and received recently additional federal fundings to add to our funding for that project. So,
Thank you, sir.
so that's got that project taken care of as far as the construction cost, total construction cost. That's one under construction. Nail Road Water Treatment Plant, we are having a pre-construction on that project next week, probably Wednesday or Thursday. Prior to bidding that project, in talking with the different contractors and the equipment, we found that there is a major lead time in getting the equipment of about 32 weeks. So once we have this pre-construction conference, we'll know a little bit more about that issue and how it's going to affect the schedule, and I'll keep you updated on that. Twin Lakes water line extension, we are presently in design on that. We spoke with the Health Department this week. We sent them our 80% set of design drawings. And so sometime around, I would guess around middle of December or late December, we'll probably have those approved for advertisement. So that'll probably come online or start construction sometime around next spring after we advertise it and get somebody on board, contractor on board. Street management program, we continue to prepare the first year one project map, and of course we're targeting to have those out and start construction on that first project sometime in the spring for the spring paving period. And additionally, we are also preparing a term bid contract, I think I've mentioned before, which is basically just to repair potholes, so that we'll have somebody on board. We can just push the button and say, come fix these few holes or whatever. And then the last one is the Horn Lake Road sidewalk project. MDOT has authorized us to begin that project, and so we'll start design on that, and I anticipate with MDOT we'll probably be in construction first of the summer on that one.
Thank you, sir. Good news.
Yes, sir.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Alderman Bledsoe.
Hey, Vince, have you heard anything else about the bridge?
Yes, sir, I have. This is the latest from the contractor. He does have a paving crew on board. Can't recall the name of the company, but he has a paving crew on board, and he's planning on being here next week to do that. So if something changes, I'll let you know.
Okay, that's getting the height right.
That's right.
Anyone else? Mr. Barr? Sir? Oh, Mr. Alderman Dupree, I'm sorry. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Mr. Pence, you're saying 32 weeks to get material in for the
Yes.
project over in Twin Lakes? So
Right.
9 months to get what?
It's basically the filter that we're putting in has a big tank, a large tank, and that equipment is what we're talking about, that and the electrical controls that go with it. Now that like I said, that was before we bid the project. So once we talk to the contractor, we can get a more realistic time frame, because he's going to be the one ordering it, obviously.
All right, if you would, just give me email me something that is like from A to Z of what's going on right now.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Barr, do you have anything, sir?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to thank the board for allowing me last week to go down to South Alabama to the Bi-State Mississippi Alabama APA State Conference. That went on for about 3 days down there, and I just had 4 quick takeaways I'd like to share that I thought were most significant and perhaps relevant. One was that they talked about sign code. Of course, there's been, the sign relevant Supreme Court case was back in 2015 with Reed versus Gilbert, and there's a lot that's affected the whole nation for signage because of that case. And then there was a recent case out of the state of Texas this year called Austin versus Reagan, has to do with electronic billboards. So that was real good to hear new perspectives on the law as far as those particular cases and how they deal with signage. So the city I'm thinking maybe sometime next year, may need to look at making some amendments to our sign code to make it a little bit more in tune with the Gilbert and Reed case. That came out of Arizona in 2015, and maybe just make the sign code a little bit easier to administer. It doesn't have any tables really to speak of. There's just gobs and gobs of words on many, many pages. So it becomes quite cumbersome to go through and try to find and answer people's questions in a timely manner with the sign code. It seems to work pretty well, really, but it's very wordy. Second thing was that they spoke about trails. I know there's been discussion this year about the park in the north part of town with the Native Americans, and and what they did is they just they showed a good example of a park down there. It's called Gulf State Park, and it's very large and it's well planned, and so that would be very important. It'd be something I would want to just double down on is the emphasis on the planning for that park and having trails in that, because that really can not just are there just the social and emotional and health benefits to people that would travel there, but in the case of this park that they had down in South Alabama, they'd actually had people relocate from different parts of the country because it was so well so well developed. They had a lot of miles of just paved asphalt for trails, and that was real a benefit for people that were like quadriplegics and that sort of thing. So they'd actually had people move to that area so they could just use the trail as a part of their lifestyle. So I would encourage that. The third thing was about moratoriums. I know every once in a while we hear I talk or others talk about the idea of moratoriums and different land uses, and they can be done, but I wouldn't recommend doing them very often. And if they do, it really limit the time frame. To avert being sued from the parties affected on a particular moratorium. Perhaps a better solution is if the city had a particular position on a land use, it might be to look at the zoning code as a whole to maybe pare down where some of those land uses could be established, so it might be a bit more difficult. And that's just a suggestion. They had a presenter there speak basically where they'd use moratoriums against student housing and for the city of Tuscaloosa and associated with the University of Alabama. It was a very interesting presentation there. And the other takeaway was about climate change. And you might think, well, what's planning have to do with climate change? But they mainly came from the perspective that how relevant is climate change and how could it affect communities? And trying to plan for systems that, whether it's water supply or flooding or those types of things. And so the main speaker was a Mr. Christie. He's a state climatologist for the state of Alabama, and he's testified before Congress and stuff like that. And so he's kind of nationally known to a certain degree, but he basically made the argument that a lot what we hear in the media is very, very selective on the data, and so they make a statement. And so he on several examples, he used where something was in the headlines or whatever, and it was like he used an example of the state of California, where it said in 2020 was the worst year on record for wildfires. And he said, well, if it's worst on record, that means it's got to be there's that numbers component there. And so then he deferred to Lord Kelvin, where we get the Kelvin scale for temperature. And Kelvin said that, well, numbers are data, data's are number. And so you have to always go back and look at the data. And what he determined, based upon his research, is that in California, the average number of wildfire, as far as the acres burned per year for the last 100 years, is 8 million per year, per calendar year. But the year 2020 was only 4.5. And so it was not real well substantiated why this particular newspaper made the claim it was worst on record, because it wasn't even an average year for the state of California. And he went on and he showed several examples of that, even in the region where we live down here in the southeast part of the country. And he used there's a lot of, I always thought there was just a very few climate models, but he had on the screen, he had like 30 or 40 different climate models and a lot of different plots showing a lot of different things. They're very complex or whatever. And one of his statements he said is that if you go out on a sunny day in this part of the country, the average amount of energy that hits a body, a person, is about 500 joules, and joules that'd be per meter squared. And of that, about 160 of that comes from the sun shining. And then there's the balance of that, was that 340? would come from the actual atmosphere. The atmosphere is putting off that much energy, separate from the sun. But he says it appears from the data that he's looked at and others have looked at that about 2 joules is from man-made influences. So that's about 0.4%. So he was trying to say that, you know, man does have an influence, but it seems to be small from what they can tell. But he said he was very frustrated over the last few decades is that, you know, he does state climatology and data and he reports that. But there's continues to be a lot of very selective statements in the media or whatever. And he said there seems to be the narrative has changed from where the media in some instance where they just used to report the weather, a weather change, a weather event, whether it be a hurricane, a tornado, you know, what have you. And they've went from the narrative of saying this is what happened to why it happened. So, and so he said he's been very frustrated trying to get out the actual data and for people to look at that in a comprehensive sense. So I thought that was an interesting thing because I've never really had much of an opinion towards climate change one way or the other. So I wouldn't take that as a license that we could just go out and light up 1 million used tires in flames and say, well, we don't have any influence in the atmosphere, because that's not what that's not the point I'm trying to make there, or whatever. But I thought it was very interesting that he was able to get that particular word out, and that point, and he showed it with slide after slide of really good data. So so I just thank you for the opportunity to go down and experience that. Had a good time. So.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the very informative and interesting summary you gave us of that, sir. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Mr. Barr? Miss AJ, I see you're here this evening. Is there anything you have for the board, ma'am? What? Oh, Alderman Klein, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to say to Mr. Barr, I know with everything that's going on in your department, with and probably spread pretty thin, especially with this rental ordinance. You had first wave of letters sent out, and my concern there was, I've already got calls in regards to it, and we really just now hired a team leader in there, I believe. I'm just concerned that we've done put the cart before the horse, and that we've got people. We need to make sure we have people and the website's up, you know, to where they can get information, you know, in regards to rental ordinance and that type of thing, and contacts. And then also, I'd like to have a copy of the letter that way when they call, I know exactly what they're talking about and what in regards to what they received. So my question is that was the first wave. How's it set to go, the rest of them going out?
Thank you, Alderman Klein. Very good question. Thank you for the concern. Staff does have some similar thoughts as well, really. We have sent out the first wave or the first phase of 4. We've tried to divide the alphabet into 4 mostly equal parts for the number of what we can identify as renters or people that own rental properties, that sort of thing. And so we're hoping to get the second wave out this week. I'd hoped to got it out last week, but it didn't happen. And so we've been, getting some feedback and some questions, and obviously we're trying to supply answers to people. Obviously, some people, they look at part of it and they just get upset. They just get emotional, and then they don't read the whole thing, because I tried to make it hit the balance in the letter. It's just a 2-page letter of what people would need to do, but not overkill it and not just supply the ordinance in its totality or whatever. So some of the frustration in the department, at least for us this month, has been the fuel man cards. We still don't have working fuel man cards. They said they were going to get us to them in 4 days, which would have been October 4th. We didn't see them until last week, until October 27th or 28th. Which they did send us 9 new cards, 9 new pins, all of that, but they don't appear to work. None of them appear to work. So I have to tell Jim, and Jim loaned us his working fuel man card, but now it's maxed out. So, because basically we had vehicles that were about out of fuel in the last day or so. So we're trying to stay operational there. So yeah, the rental housing quality coordinator, that person, they're actually already working to a certain degree in that position. and we'll be transitioning to that more during this month. And so then we're looking for a replacement. So that's one thing I need to say is that if anybody's interested in applying for that front planning administration type job, that I would encourage people to do that. So we could find some qualified people there to fill in that particular position. So I have tasked the planner, Planner One, with updating the website. There's been slow there because we really need to have more information on the website. And so that's kind of where we're at. That's kind of the status quo right now. So, but yeah, we're hoping to get the second wave out of letters this week. The first wave was 220 in number, so I'm suspecting it's about 200 to 250 in this next, and then in the subsequent weeks after that.
So could you provide us a copy of the letter that you'll be sending out?
Yes, I can do that. Matter of fact, I could put that, I don't know how you'd want to get that, whether it's email or in your mailboxes or what have you, but we can certainly.
Email would be great for me.
Okay. Yes, we can do that.
Anyone else? Miss AJ, did you have anything tonight, ma'am? Well, we certainly thank you and the Youth Council for all you do. I know they're a hard-working bunch, but you're the one that inspires them. As everybody sitting up here knows, Ms. AJ's the one that puts this Veterans Day program together as a way of thanking our veterans for their sacrifices for our freedom. It's going to be a very, very good program. Any of you that can make it, please do. But if you know any veterans or their families, please let them know. 9 o'clock on November the 9th at Landers Center. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. AJ? Mr. Jim, you have anything?
Well, I had placed at your seat just some information I wanted you all to have under that miscellaneous mail section. First was a letter from Governor Reeves' office just informing us that our CAP loan was repaid. This was the Newlywed Food Rail Spur loan. It had a balance of $120,276. That's really stretched over about another 8 years. So newlyweds decided to pay that off early. So that was the joint venture with that rail spur that the city went in with newlyweds to, bless you, to get them a good interest rate. But that is paid off, so we will not have that. But really, that was an in and an out. They sent it in, we sent it off. So the next sheet was the latest from Shelter Planners of America. I'd asked them to kind of give us an updated opinion on probable cost for the animal shelter. You know, and as time lapses, as Mr. Vince mentioned, with the shortage of getting supplies and getting information and getting materials, you can see the costs went up there at the top. Point 1 and price point 2, just the building itself is $3,599,000 plus. You know, the second price point for a little bit more quality was $4,556,000 plus. then when you add in all the other, you know, exterior things, parking lot, soft costs, it's, you know, 5.7 and 7.5. So, wanted to keep you up to date on that. I did meet with, an architect, today that is looking at both, if we have to get a second bid on the animal shelter, they are able to do that. They're actually working on an animal shelter right now. But mainly got them in here to look at the building, City Hall renovation. And they've got, it's kind of ironic, I didn't realize it, but one of the gentlemen that showed up today, I gave him the blueprints of City Hall, which was over 20 years ago, and his initials were, he was working for that particular firm that did the building in 1999. So he was very familiar with City Hall. They're going to give us a price of looking at ceiling to floor renovation and some exterior renovation or upgrades that I've talked to him about to help with some of how the exterior looks. The next letter is from the Bridge the Gap. You all sponsored the DeSoto County, well, the Career Tech helped put that on, and that expo brought in 10th graders to the Lander Center. I went over there and volunteered for one day, and it was an amazing event there in the Lander Center for 10th graders, but they were just saying thank you for that. And then the last letter is from MML. You know, you probably received this in email. It's a lot of additional trainings that are afforded to you all as aldermen. You can look at those if you're interested in any of those. These are all online that you can do, you know, from your leisure right here, and don't have to travel, don't have to, you know, any expenses like that. But we can sign you up if you're interested in those that are still needing CMOs to achieve their different levels there. But wanted to keep you informed of all of that information. And I also had sent out an email earlier talking about some of the upcoming events with the chamber dinner Thursday the 14th. Had a few respond. Just let me know if you're wanting to attend that so we can get that to the chamber so they can get a head count. So that's Thursday the 14th, I believe, at the Red Barn. And I think that is it.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Alderman Geis.
I just have a question for Mr. Robinson on, you're getting the cost on the building renovations here. Would you rather any motion on proceeding toward getting the bond issues and stuff, wait till you have the amounts for the City Hall as well, so it's all done at one time?
Yes, I'm trying to get, before I can even get anybody to bid on it, I need architects to come in and do the full specs to put them out there to see what it's going to cost. And then we'll have an idea of both of them, you know, if we lump them together for a capital bond for the two facilities, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? This estimated cost, I know it's just the estimated cost on the animal shelter. That does not include any dirt work, does it? Or does that include the dirt work and all the necessary,
Yeah, it's on down in there,
okay.
yeah. The exterior and the parking lot, you can kind of see the breakdown.
Water
on it.
lines and all that being brought to it.
Yes, and I said the 14th, it's Thursday the 17th, is the chamber dinner.
Anyone else? Mr. Campbell, did you have anything for the board, sir?
Do not, Mr. Mayor.
All right, going back, letter N, acknowledgement of the 2020 financial audit from Fulton Berry and Ballard CPA. Alderman Bostic.
Yeah, we just got this information, it was it yesterday? Or, yeah, late yesterday. And I just wanted to I know we acknowledge it, but I wanted to make sure all the aldermen had an opportunity to review it and have any questions before we acknowledge it. I was wondering if we could have that ample time until our next meeting and just table that, if that's okay with you, Jim. That way, if any questions come up, we can address you and have gentlemen come in if necessary or whatever.
Yeah, David said he would be happy to answer any questions and talk about everything that is in there. If you have any particular pages or questions, he said he'd be willing to. He works for a different firm now, and that firm wouldn't approve his expenses to travel, but we can Zoom him in. He can be here and answer questions if you all want him to. He said he'd be willing to take his evening and do that.
You may be able to answer the questions before we even get there, and we may not need him to do that. I just wanted to throw it out there for every alderman to have an opportunity to look at it. That way, if they did have any questions, we can get all that taken care of before we acknowledge it, if that's okay. Do we need to make a motion for that?
No, we'll just put it on next meeting's agenda.
Okay.
We just got it yesterday afternoon, so I'm in the same boat as you. Anyone else have any questions or comments on it? All right, going back to letter G, again, Alderman Bostic.
Yes, on letter G, I know back last year when we did our budget, we had a discussion about how we were going to use the hotel motel funds. This prior week, I had our attorney, Mr. Campbell, email us with the definition of the hotel motel. I call it hospitality fee, but it's actually a tax, the way they put it anyway. And there's not a full understanding of how this money is supposed to be spent, even with Mr. Campbell's email. And I know our committee just met for the first time this past week, and they've got some ideas in place that they would probably, hopefully present to us maybe next meeting. Would that possibly?
No, probably,
It'll be that quick.
possibly next meeting, but
The next meeting?
we could kind of give you an outline, but
All right,
I'm thinking it's going to be something that will take us a little more studying
right,
in regards to, and then maybe implement it for January the 1st.
right. I understand. And I would like to just make sure we all have clear clarification on what we can and cannot use this money for. And by reading Mr. Campbell's email, I think y'all understand that kind of where we're at on that. So I'd like to give the opportunity for the committee to meet a few more times before we approve any money, unless it's for the economic development of the city, and it's very well understood that that's what it is, and there's no question.
Are you saying, Alderman, that you would like to table letter G? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments? Alderman Bledsoe.
How urgent is that money for the football team to, that's one thing that we discussed in the meeting. Where's this money going? How much you got left? We don't know what they had left from last year. Do they have enough to make it until we do this, like he's talking about? And we discussed about putting out forms where they fill out what they're spending it for and how much they got left and who's spending it. And maybe two people sign off on it when they spend it. That way it's no, well, I don't know where that $10,000 went. Right now, we have nothing. We don't know what, when, and where that last year money went to sandwiches and whatever. Okay, what's whatever? So that's what we're working on, and I don't know how quick they need their money for, since they already aimed for us, to ask for it. And then I think January 1, I think we said something about going strictly by what we come up with. And I hate to put them in a bind because they were counting on us, because we kind of give them we'll probably do this, but that's up to y'all.
Well, would you like for us to ask them to have that information for the next board meeting?
Yeah, that would be good. Maybe we can vote on just that part for right now.
Yeah, I'm like,
Get their money 'Cause I don't wanna hold them up. I don't want somebody taking money out of their pocket to pay for our football team to go play. I know they don't have but 1 or 2 games left, right? But 1 game left.
Well,
They haven't played all year.
I'm like you. There needs to be accountability, but they kind of think they're gonna get it. We don't know what financial shape that's gonna leave them in. Alderman Klein.
Well, and that's a good point, and those that are on the list. So, and just throwing this out there, to where we're kind of leaning to is, anybody, schools or any, individual that's coming before us would have to do an application first, what they're wanting that money for, and what it's to be used. And before it even comes before the board, that application needs to be filled out and then put on the agenda. Is kind of what we're leaning towards. But like I said, we don't want to affect those this year, until we get something in place.
Yes, sir. It's a good idea. Anybody else have any? Alderman Johnson.
Mr. Jim, when was the last time we gave them a donation?
Last year.
Yeah, it was last,
This time last year, and it was the 10,000?
yes.
Alderman Johnson, anything else, ma'am?
No, sir.
Alderman Young.
That's a great point, all the way down through there. I like that, with what we were discussing in the committee meetings. I don't want to see them do without, whatever. They only wake up one more game. So I don't think us holding back a couple of weeks is going to hurt them that much. If they come before us next time and it's absolutely a dire straight kind of thing, I would, not saying that this is what we need, I would probably make the motion that we give them half of it and hold off half of it till after January. When we have everything in place, then we know what's going on. But just to let everybody know that comes up here and stands at that podium, they're gonna have to come up with some sort of, they're gonna have to get audited. They're gonna have to provide us with an audit of every dime they spent. This city is accountable to these people at Point Lake for the money. It's not that we don't want to give these people that money, but if we ever get audited, our tail's in the wind.
Alderman Johnson.
I think that's a very fine idea. When you write grants, you have to have all of that in place. And we also want to follow up with them maybe 6 months out to know exactly what they did do with that money so that we have that on record as well.
Exactly right.
Anyone else? Alderman Geis.
I'm not sure if any of the aldermen were on this board when that was first approved. Were you? I don't know what the intent of that was, but in my mind, I've said this before, economic development isn't charities. It's something that's supposed to attract business and growth to the city. And as nice as it is to provide to charities, I don't know if that is bringing in any extra business to the city or developments. And when this gets approved again, hopefully by the legislature, whenever that comes up, I would like some wording in there, some clarification specifically what this is for. I can't speak for anybody that was the mayor or the board back then, but I wouldn't think their thought was it was all going to go to charity. That's nice as that is. So to me, things that would attract business and tourism here would be like the skate park that somebody came in last month, increasing that, additions to our parks, advertising in publications and things like that. That's what I think of when I think of economic development. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Coleman has gone over and done some work at the skate park. There's new benches in. They repainted it where there was more graffiti. But Mr. Coleman brought up about the bathrooms, and I'm firmly committed to keeping them locked up because there's been nothing but trouble when they're open that late at night. There's vandalism, and that costs money. It's a shame a few people, a few bad apples will cause so much inconvenience and trouble to the rest of the citizens. Anything else on, Alderman Bledsoe?
Did we discuss anything, Drew, about getting cameras put up? We still had some, I don't know if they're still there or not, the old cameras that were looking at the skate park and had I think a 24-hour tape that went around. If something happened, you could pull the tape to see what's what. And that, where the bathroom is, it's in that little breezeway back there. That's where all the equipment was at one time. Now, that's been about 10 years ago, something like that. So I don't know.
Yes, sir. That equipment is really old. We're working on modernizing that. I've been in talks with Mr. Daniel with IT. We're looking at running some beams out that way, and hopefully we can get wireless internet up and running. We'll get some cameras going.
Okay.
Anything else?
Hey, Mayor, well,
Alderman Klein?
in regards to those cameras, technology has come so far in these cameras that, they're really crystal clear these days versus 2 years ago. I just want to.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, we're down to executive session number 12. Do we have a motion for a closed determination?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis.
make a motion to go into closed determination.
We have a motion by Alderman Geis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor and none opposed. If y'all will excuse us for a moment, please.
Second.
Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Mayor,
Alderman Geist.
make a motion to go into executive session for item A, discussions regarding the location, relocation, and expansion of businesses or an industry.
We have a motion by Alderman Geist. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Bostic. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. If y'all will excuse us for a while, please. quarter.
Yes. Ex-firemen,
Thank you, sir.
Do we have a motion to come out of executive session?
Mayor, I make the motion to come out of executive session.
Motion by Alderman Geis, is there a second? Second by Alderman Bledsoe, is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Do we have any motions as a result of the executive session?
Mayor,
Alderman Young.
I move to amend the board order number 101522 to remove the 30-year time period in that order.
We have a motion by Alderman Young. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. There being no other business before this honorable board, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, sir.
Motion by Alderman Young to adjourn. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please, Mr. Jim.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree. Alderman Young.
Aye.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.